one of the reasons that has come to be is because of something we call in our Storage Wins community our secret weapon, and that's nothing more than a buyer info sheet.
Pre-buyer info sheet. I'm working oftentimes with an owner, with a broker I've only spoke with once or twice, or an owner I've only spoken with once or twice. They don't know me from anybody else, and so they just see numbers and terms on a piece of paper, and it's maybe not quite what they were expecting, so there's no personal connection there unless we had really long phone calls and got to know each other really well, but that's often not the case. So it makes it much easier for them to just kind of toss it aside and move on to the next one, or wait for a better offer to come around.
Within a minute or two, get a really, really good understanding about who you are, why this is important to you, your ability to get the deal done, inspire confidence in them, and ultimately want to work with you. Welcome to the Storage Wins podcast with Mr. Dan Wentzel here. My name is Alex Pardo, and hopefully you have been joining us in this journey to help Dan get his very first self-storage facility. And Dan and I were just talking offline how much we have been building to get to this point, and how much time, energy, and effort has been put in by Dan in his self-storage business on the way to get his first deal, and on the podcast, and just everything that we've covered, everything that we've shared, the ups, the downs, the challenges, the lessons learned, the highs, the lows, the wins, and everything in between. And Dan has been making a lot of progress. Now, just because you have progress and you're building momentum, it doesn't mean you're not going to be met with frustration. Doesn't mean you're not going to be met with challenges. We'll probably touch on that and talk about that here today. But I want to continue to build on the previous episode. One of the things that Dan mentioned in the last episode was how he has been getting brokers to send him pocket listings, which essentially are deals that have yet to hit the open market, that are not on Craigslist, that are not on LoopNet. And one of the reasons that has come to be is because of something we call in our Storage Wins community our secret weapon. And that's nothing more than a buyer info sheet. And I remember the first time on one of our Storage Wins community calls that I mentioned, and I started talking about this buyer info sheet and the role it plays in building your credibility, giving you confidence, giving brokers confidence to work with you. And literally within like 24 hours, Dan posted in our Storage Wins community, hey, check out my buyer info sheet. Check out our, essentially what we call our secret weapon. Like, what do you guys think? He and one other community member did that. And so Dan, man, I'd like to get into that. And I'd like for you to dissect and break down the anatomy of a really good buyer info sheet. And I'd love to hear from your perspective, the role that you feel that has played in building your confidence and helping give you clarity, but also your interactions with storage brokers and sharing that with them, and what kind of response you feel that's had. But before we dive into that, I always like to start with wins, and then we can transition from there. So yeah, man, give us an update since our last coaching call / podcast, and let me know the wins, man.
Yeah, Alex, great to see you again. So one of the big wins, I think, from the last week or so has been an owner who I've made an offer on to buy their facility. Instead of just paying more attention to the offers that she has and not even responding to me, I guess I made a good enough impression with her to at least provide feedback to me, and I've given her 2 offers now. She was open to getting another offer. So I just thought it was a win that I had built enough credibility and the word I'm looking for is escaping me.
You're good.
But that she was open to continuing the conversation with me and giving me an opportunity to give her another offer instead of just writing me off as a young guy who can't afford to buy $1 million business on his own.
Yeah. Just to build on that, a quick follow-up is, what do you attribute that to? Because that wasn't always the case with you, right?
Right. Yeah, it's the relationships I've made and the strategies I've learned of how to do that without your own money.
I think also too, man, just you being more mindful and intentional about building a relationship and doing it in a way that's very genuine and authentic. I think it's coming across, and you're starting to see the fruit of those efforts, I think. So awesome, man. Anything else to build on a report? And look, by the way, man, and you know this, but sometimes wins don't really feel like wins. Sometimes it's a learning lesson. Sometimes it's what not to do, or it's something is revealed in terms of what needs to change. And so a win doesn't necessarily mean you quote unquote win, but it means, hey, this was a challenge. And you were very open and transparent about that on our last show about a missed opportunity. And while that doesn't feel like a win, I think it's a huge win long term. We'd like to minimize the mistakes we make and the challenges and the lessons, but that's inevitable. You're going to go through them. I'm going to go through them. You show me a winner and I'll show you somebody who's got a lot of battle scars, right? Somebody who's been knocked down many times. And brother, to your credit, people listening to this, unless they're a part of our exclusive community, unless you're a part of the Storage Wins family, like, you were very open and transparent on one of our community calls, and you really broke down, like you did for us on the podcast last week, and you broke down what happened and what you took from it, and you saw how well received it was and how it inspired people and how people came alongside and encouraged you, lifted you up. Because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to me, that's a big win. Could you share a little bit about that experience? Because I don't think you were surprised, but I think you were a little bit taken back by how it was received.
Yeah, I'd say it's a community of people who are supporters and there to uplift one another, and sharing the actual experience and not holding back, trying to make myself not look good in front of others, I think is really helpful for others to learn from it. So,
yeah.
I'd say it's a combination of those things.
Yep, got it. Okay, cool, man. So let's start to get into our secret weapon, which we call the buyer info sheet. Could you explain, big picture, what is it and why has it been so valuable for you? Like, what have you gained from having one?
It's a one-page document that I've added to the last page of my LOI, the offer that I make with each facility. And it's about who I am and why I'm financially credible, and give them a sense of comfortability in doing business with me. And so it's not just black and white words on a piece of paper, and give them a sense of who they're working with.
So let's do a before and after here. Before you had this secret weapon, right? Think of a buyer info sheet as like your resume, so to speak. Before having this, what did conversations with brokers sound like? Do you feel you had as much clarity as you do now? Like, paint a picture in terms of pre-buyer info sheet to post-buyer info sheet.
Pre-buyer info sheet is I'm working oftentimes with an owner, with a broker I've only spoke with once or twice, or an owner I've only spoken with once or twice, and they don't know me from anybody else, and so they just see numbers and terms on a piece of paper, and it's maybe not quite what they were expecting, so there's no personal connection there unless we had really long phone calls and got to know each other really well, but that's often not the case. So it makes it much easier for them to just kind of toss it aside and move on to the next one, or wait for a better offer to come around.
Okay, got it. And then now that you put one together, and we'll dissect exactly like what makes a strong buyer info sheet and how you can create your own. What did it do once you put it together? Because I think when you heard me talk about the power of it as a credibility builder and the confidence it gives you, once again, to your credit, less than 24 hours later, you had put yours together. So I commend you for just always taking that massive imperfect action. What do you find it has done for you having it? for you and for the brokers that receive it?
I put myself in the shoes of a seller too, and how um, putting together, it's like a short resume basically of who I am, why they should give me some more thought, and more of a chance to work with them towards a solution that works for them to sell their storage facility. I put a picture of me and my wife and daughter on there just to put a face to a name and tell them about my team, my education in self-storage. I'm surrounded by mentors, coaches, um, and just a little bit about who I am, and all that, just to give them a sense of comfortability with me, and some confidence that I can close a deal. And I don't know if I can say black and white the impact it's had, but I can certainly imagine from the seller's shoes, how it's what I would want to see as a seller.
Yeah.
So you know who you're working with, or at least have a better idea who you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, think about the mindset of either a seller or a broker, and let's say they are evaluating options and they receive 3 letters of intent or 3 offers, and one of them comes with a professional 1-page summary of who the buyer is, not just what makes them credible, what makes them able to close this deal financially, but a little bit about them, because people are people. We're human, right? We all put our pants on the same way, at least to my knowledge. Like, we all have interest in hobbies, and in many cases, family and loved ones. And I don't know about you, I'm going to be more drawn to the person that I get to learn a little bit about, even if we don't have any common interest. But the fact that they would be thoughtful and intentional about providing this, to me, is automatically going to set you above and beyond others. And not just to me. As you know, Dan, we've had some of the top storage brokers in the country come on our community calls and share from their perspective. Hey, it's always helpful. It puts you ahead of most when you're able to do that and share. I think it was John Lindsay from Lindsay Self Storage even talked about, like, man, if you can include some things about you personally, like, I want to know that. I want to know what makes this person tick and who they are. So let's break down, you kind of touched on it, but on this 1-pager, from your perspective, what are the key things that you think you absolutely want to include on this buyer info sheet?
Yeah, I have mine sitting right here, so I'm gonna glance at it while I'm talking
Take
to
us
you.
through it from top to bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to like get line item by line item, but by category.
Right. Yeah. So first, just about who I am, and why I'm doing this, and it's, build a business, support my family, be in business on my own, not work a 9-to-5 job. Maybe you don't have to include all that, but just a sense of who I am, relevant experience, how long I've been working on self-storage, getting into the business, who I've surrounded myself with, getting hands-on mentorship, and financial strength, why they should believe I can afford to buy the facility that I'm making an offer on, and have access to the capital to do that, or have the capital myself.
Okay, and specifically for people listening that don't have the capital, right? Because as you know, that's a common objection is, hey, I don't have the money to go buy this facility. What should, from your perspective, Dan, what should they include as far as giving a broker, a seller, reason to believe that they can get it done? And I realize it's a general question because you don't know, it's going to vary from person to person. But as you've witnessed others in our community close deals without having to use their money, right? It's not just me. You've seen it. You've seen countless people do this now. For those who might not have the capital, what should they include in that section?
I'd say something about, if you're in a coaching group or a self-storage network, or have surrounded yourself with people in the self-storage industry, and you have access to that capital or access to private lending, to write that. And because that shows that you have access to the capital that you're going to need to buy the facility. Otherwise, they might think that this young kid who doesn't have self-storage experience or isn't in a self-storage investor yet probably doesn't have the funds to purchase the facility themselves.
Yep. Okay, awesome. What else did you cover everything that you have on yours?
Also, I have a little bit about my team, that I'm part of the, self-storage, Storage Wins community, and have mentors around me, that I've built relationships with, owners, brokers, mentors, service providers, to help me as I continue to learn about the business. And then just a personal note about me and why I'm doing this, and
Yeah, I love that.
my vision with their property.
Yeah. I would highly encourage you guys to include why you're pursuing self-storage. It gives people, you ever seen a movie and you see kind of like the underdog? Naturally, like what happens is you root for the underdog. And so if you don't own storage and this is your first facility, and if you're listening to this, chances are, in most cases, in many cases, that's going to be the boat that you're in. Don't act as if, don't make it seem like you own all these facilities when you don't ever lie. Like, tell people straight up, hey, I'm actively looking for my first facility, and share with them why this is important to you, and let them know that you've invested in yourself, and hopefully you've surrounded yourself with the right people like Dan has. That is only going to build you up, and people want to see others win many times. I know I do, and I know you do as well. So that buyer info sheet is something that, don't overcomplicate it. It should be one page. It shouldn't be any longer than that. You want people to be able to consume it, i.e. read it as quickly as possible, and within a minute or two, get a really, really good understanding about who you are, why this is important to you, your ability to get the deal done, inspire confidence in them, and ultimately want to work with you because they've gotten to know, like, and trust you a little bit better. That alone, and that's why I call it a secret weapon, that alone will set you apart from most others out there that don't have it. And like Dan mentioned, I don't know if you missed it, you absolutely want to include that attached to your LOI, your letter of intent, or if you're going to go ahead and send a PSA, a purchase and sale agreement. So love that, Dan. Man, anything else you would share about the buyer info sheet?
I've just put in bold and underlined a couple things on it that I just want to make sure stand out. Like that I'm deeply involved in learning the self-storage industry. I have hands-on mentorship. I have access to the capital to close the deal, and getting guidance from people with decades of experience. Just a couple of things to pop out that can be, I want to be sure that they see those
couple nuggets, right? And I think I heard you say that you did opt to include a picture of your beautiful family in there, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a fan of that. I've done that with direct mail letters that I sent to self-storage owners. I would absolutely, if you're comfortable with it, let them know why. It tells the person that, hey, I'm a family man or a family woman, and I have children, and they might have children. And even if they don't, many people like kids. And even if they don't, it just shows a personal side. It shows that you're a real human being behind that offer, versus it just being very stale and static, and it's just an email with some numbers on an LOI. And so I think if you ask any broker, I don't think you would ever hear it's going to hurt you. I think most would say it's going to help. Maybe a small select few will say it's neutral, but it can, in my opinion, it only helps you. So definitely encourage you guys to put together a buyer info sheet. I've actually recorded a YouTube video, and I believe, it's on my YouTube channel. And it's called, we'll link it up. I think in the title, it says the secret weapon that helps you close more deals, or something along those lines. We'll see if we can get that linked up in the show notes. It's on my YouTube channel. Just search for Alex Pardo and you'll find that. But look, with that said, Dan, man, so we've been recording these episodes for several months now, and I want to say that this is going to be a record for us. I'm going to put a bow on this one. I want to keep this episode super tight, focused, and to the point, and have it be about the buyer info sheet. So, man, it's about a 20-minute podcast, which for us, we're usually in that 45-minute to hour plus long range. So, look, here is my call to action for you is, like Dan did within a 24-hour period, put together your bio info sheet. Keep it super simple. Look, here's the benefit is with AI tools like ChatGPT, you can prompt it and have it help you put this together pretty quickly. Just make sure it's personable, make sure it's real, it's relatable, and it quickly summarizes you and what you're about, what your interests are, why you're interested in self-storage, and your ability to get the deal closed. And test me and test Dan. Start attaching that to your offers and see what happens. So that is my call to action for you. And then the last one, I'll violate a rule in terms of calls to action, not give you more than one. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, Storage Wins, so that you're notified every single week with new episodes. And I'm really looking forward to connecting with Dan on the next one so we can continue to build and have you follow along on his journey to his very first self-storage deal. So with that being said, I will connect with you guys on the next one. Take care.
Thanks, Ats.